Show me your network and I will show you your net worth.
I went through a spiritual training program to do soul realignment practice. It always starts with a soul reading.
If they don't do the work, they're not going to get the results. I'm working out. I'm doing the cold plunge. I ran the marathon. I've traveled. Hi, everyone. I'm Delise Abraham, Faith in Sparkles World, and welcome to another episode of the Conscious Leader Podcast, where I interview guests who are leading consciously, holistically, and who is doing it in such a way that not only are they building connection, more importantly, they are building community. So today I have an exceptional guest. I am so excited to actually have her on. And I say this every single guest. You know why? Because they're all great and they're all bringing a value to the table to support you and me, as well as themselves. So Louisa is my guest today, and she is actually here to give you some insights into the future of consumerism, the future of wealth, the future of marketing, and it all deals with the spirit. So let's get right into it. Louisa, hi, how are you today?
Hello, excited to be on. Thank you for having me here.
Well, thank you for being here. I am genuinely pumped up for today because we're seeing everything in the market evolving. And today it's such a timely matter because everything is about the spiritual. And now it's not just spiritually, I'm saying I'm into the spiritual, or I practice spiritualism, or I am a spiritual person. It's really now people are getting more refined. They're getting that level of discernment in terms of who's authentic and who is real. But I'll save that for our questioning later. Please share with our guests who you are, who you serve, and what impact and influence you have on having on others.
I love it. Thank you so much. I am Louisa Anderson. I am a soul coach, and I call myself a soul reader, and I teach about energy. I teach about all aspects of energy. After a recent, in the last couple of years, spiritual awakening, my life shifted, and I came into the realization that I am here to make an impact on others. I am here to learn, to teach, to learn, always learning. That's the most important part, but also to teach others about energy and about energy healing. And I do that in two ways. I teach about the chakras. All of my teachings all encompass the chakras and learning the energetic bodies in our systems that impacts everything that we do every day, but it's unseen, right? All the spiritual stuff that we can't see. And I also do Akashic soul readings. And what I love the most about that is the impact that I'm able to have in people's lives by being able to let people know what their soul purpose is. And also by allowing others to become aware of what blocks and restrictions are currently holding them back from living out that purpose. Then we go ahead and clear all of that energetic that stuckness that happens. We clear that spiritually through our energetic bodies. And yeah, that's what I love most, is being able to impact people's lives, to get them to kind of keep going, find their path if they haven't found it yet, and keep moving along if they have found.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, yeah, thanks for sharing so much about that. That is not easy, obviously. That is intense work. And so you see different spiritual leaders like pastors, imams, the Suri guru type, there's various names for spiritual leaders of a temple or mosque or church or synagogue. And they are the ones who are spiritually, they're the spiritual guide for their congregation, for the people under them as they're growing them and leading them. And so that in itself is very, very, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. We think as leaders and as entrepreneurs that we're doing a lot, but when you stop and think and you look at the realm of the spirit, and if people don't fully understand the the spirit world, there's so many things, both good and bad, that can impact you. And we are also contributing to that with our thoughts, our words, our deeds, our actions, and how consciously we're doing it. So, we live in a time where there's a lot of things happening, and people need help. People need support. So that's what you're doing. So why did you get involved with this?
So I mentioned a spiritual awakening. I had this shift in my life, completely unexpected. I call it the white picket fence life that I had. And when this white picket fence came crashing down unexpectedly, what ended up happening really was me coming into myself and kind of realizing who I was. Like, the person that had gotten lost in all of the external and had forgotten that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I came back to her. I found her. We re-engaged, and I realized that I'm here to help people. And I also realized that I had these beautiful gifts, clairvoyant and clairsentient. And so with these gifts, these spiritual gifts that I was given, I thought, well, how can I help? I wasn't just given these for my own help, which is wonderful, but how can I help others? And so that's how all of this came about. Was I really became open to the realization that this is one way that I can help, one way that I can use my gifts, because I think it is important to mention that as we are opening ourselves up to the spiritual world and, and becoming more conscious, which is what's happening, right, across the board, it's important to acknowledge, I think, that we have these gifts when we can come back home, to ourselves and to the spiritual beings that we are. I think that it's important to know that there's so many ways that we can help, so many different ways.
Well, absolutely. And before I go on and we chat a bit about like conscious leadership, conscious businesses, conscious homes, and parenting, and the evolution, which is the next step, is the spiritual, which is actually on step by step. You're seeing it. If you're awake, you're seeing that step. I wanted to clarify the meaning of the word clairvoyant and clairsentient, because people may not fully understand what those words mean.
Yes. So clairvoyant is the gift of being able to receive messages from the spirit world, really, from your guides, however you look at it, your angels. People have received messages from different parts of the spiritual world. Through vision. So for me, I can close my eyes, ask a question, and I receive a response in images. And then I need to interpret that response. And then clairsentient is I can feel the response. So, and I guess the best way to explain it is, some people are like, I know the truth. And it's just this feeling of knowing it. I actually get physical sensations of when somebody's telling me the truth or lying to me. So that's clairsentient and clairvoyant. And thank you for stopping to clarify that.
Yeah, no, because there's some people that may not understand the difference of it. And they may see you as more like a medium or like psychic. And just because you have that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you're practicing. Some people might call you a prophet, for example. Or seer, they may see you as, because you can see it, right? And so that's why I wanted you to explain the difference, because you never said you were psychic, you never said you were a medium or anything like that, or a channeling, which is that's a whole different ballgame. But moving on, you mentioned conscious, like now people are becoming more conscious. And I'm a leadership coach. So in terms of conscious leadership, I mean, the name of the podcast is Conscious Leader, the Conscious Leader podcast. Many business owners are consciously running their business, some of them, right? There's a lot of stress that is happening. And, that comes from John McKay, who really changed the game, the dynamics in terms of how capitalism was. So he introduced conscious capitalism, where now we're providing value and quality to consumers, to our clients, to the people. So you're also providing value to your clients, as well as going even further, now consciously leading your teams, consciously ensuring that they're happy, there's good community, there's a nice company culture, all of those things in the early 2000, around 2006, 2007. He's the creator of Whole Foods. And if you guys don't know, I did a whole breakdown of his book, The Conscious Leader, on conscious leadership on YouTube. So you guys could check that out. But the evolution of consciously leading, consciously building our community is evolving into the realm of the spirit. And I do training and workshops all the time. I'm also using it in my own personal life so that I can make sure things are working, so that when I'm working with others, it works. One of the things I've come across is that there are many people using buzzwords such as, is your higher self aligned? This is why this is not working. If you put it like this, then you will magnetize the right people. If you truly and really believe, you will manifest in 3 days. Now, I'm not saying that they're wrong in what they're saying, but not everybody is qualified or skilled to guide people or train people in that. And so they're using these buzzwords really as a fear tactic to like bring people in. Now leading to my question, how do you help better serve through your gifting and skills humanity by working with other entrepreneurs or parents or, whoever you work with?
So I just want to make sure I get the question. So how do I help serve humanity through? Okay. I think I do that mostly. So one of the things that I teach a lot is, to anyone who will listen, is the importance of meditation. And, there are a lot of different ways to meditate. But I specifically talk and share about stillness. I believe that the changes that improved my own life, that changed the trajectory of my life for the better, were all related to my practices that started with meditation. So my morning routine goes a lot like I sit up from my bed, I meditate, I grab my journal, I write my prayer for the day, I write my affirmations, and I write, a little bit about what I'm going to do for the day. And I feel so strongly that going within ourselves and taking the time to pray and taking the time to meditate is life-changing. So even though, my main practice is teaching people energy, helping people understand the impact of our own energetic body system, how that spiritually affects us, I feel like the biggest impact that I make in any room that I walk in is helping others understand the value and the life-changing impact that something so simple like sitting with yourself for 5 or 10 minutes and saying your daily, affirmations and prayers is so impactful, because it brings you back to your compass. Mm-hmm. Where do I go from here? You can hear now, you can listen.
Yeah, 100%. And we've lost that for over a century, if not more. People will say intuition. Some people would say, and so what they forgot is that when we put children in timeout, or we put people in prisons and in jail cells, and in their punishment is to put them in the hole, isolation. When we put people in isolation, people cannot be by themselves. They're used so much to noise. And so it's very, very hard for them to be alone with their thoughts, to sit in stillness. And the way things are going right now, I honestly believe we're coming to a point where, yes, we're around other people and we have community, but we have to really zone in and learn to be with ourselves. Because being with ourselves, we have to face those fears. We have to face the sadness, the anger, the trauma, the hurt. We have to face it. So then we don't go, we don't feel frightened or alone or scared, and things will trigger us as easily. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely agree. And I love that you made the point of community, because community is such an important aspect of our existence, right? But if we cannot sit with ourselves, if we cannot process those fears on our own, if we cannot sit and work through our emotions, be able to learn to identify our emotions, right? Which is part of what happens with stillness. Then when we do come into that community, what are we offering that community? We're offering them all of our trauma. We're projecting onto them all of the pain, all of the unprocessed emotions, all of the feelings, and everything else that we haven't worked through ourselves. We're unable to show up authentically without all of the negativity that we in ourselves haven't worked through. And now what happens is, right, then we're in community, we're impacting others. We're now passing that along, the masses. Yes. We're passing that along to the rest of our community, and therefore kind of feeding that negativity beyond ourselves now, because we didn't do it for ourselves.
100%. And you know what? That comes back to the old saying from back in the day, where I know my grandmother would say, show me your friends and show me who you are. I don't know if you know that saying, show me your friends and show me who you are. Now people are saying, show me your network, and I will show you your net worth. So all of those sayings are so aligned with exactly what you're saying. If we can't be by ourselves, and we don't know how to love ourselves and to heal, yes, we're part of a community, but if we're not doing our own inner work and showing up and gaining the support from whoever our spiritual leaders are, or where we go to get refreshed and renewed every week or twice a week, or however long you're doing that, you're bringing in to your community, whoever your community is, in your work, in your home, and with your friends, your trauma, your hurt, your pain, your projections, good or bad, negative or positive. Now, I'm feeling very confident you've worked with entrepreneurs. Yes, no, yes.
All the time.
All the time. This is your bread and butter. So when you're working with entrepreneurs and they come to you and they say, I have the systems, I have the coaches, I have a great team, something's missing. I'm working out, I'm doing the cold plunge, I ran the marathon, I've traveled, but I'm dead on the inside. What do you say to that?
You're missing your internal compass. You're missing yourself.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Take us like, I've come to you, or anybody has come to you, and I'm just saying, I need help. I don't know what I need, but I need help.
Yeah.
Like, what services do you offer? Take me on a journey of how you can help me.
So in this situation, it always starts with a soul reading. So we tap into the Akashic records, and I'll back up a little bit here because, one of the things that I think is super important, you talked about credibility, and not only do I have these gifts innately, I was born with them, and even though I suppressed them for a long time, I also have training. I went through a spiritual training program to do soul realignment practicing. So what happens is I sit down and I do these readings on my own, because I like to explain this because I think a lot gets lost here when we think about like readings. I personally grew up Catholic, and I personally think like, oh, like tarot readings, like these cards and things like that. And I like to explain that it's nothing like that because the term reading kind of throws me off personally. I like to do them by myself because of the level of concentration and the level of balance that I need to have within myself to be able to accurately tap into somebody else's energy and into their soul and be able to gather the information that is going to be helpful for them when they come to me in those situations, to be able to identify, first of all, who they are at soul level. So, like, what are you here to do? That's the main thing. I love tapping into that because it's so beautiful. And when I share it with people, especially entrepreneurs, they're like, that makes so much sense as to how I ended up doing what I'm doing, right? Yeah. And so that's the first thing that we gather is who you are at soul level. And that gives us a couple of different things. What are your soul gifts? So what gifts were you given by the divine to be able to express in this lifetime? And then we are able to move forward and identify what is keeping you from expressing those gifts in this lifetime. So for people who are doing a lot, the people who are like, oh, I just need to work harder. I just need to work more. Mm-hmm. And I need to run that marathon. And I need to, go partner up with this new business and do all of the things. And it's not working. It's because there's a blockage. There is a blockage from who you are at soul level, from who you were meant to express yourself as. From a divinity level, it's like your divinity is not being expressed. But what's blocking that is the next part that I get is what are the blocks and restrictions keeping you from that? And so what I'm able to identify are these specifics. I get down to, for example, for one entrepreneur, we got down to the fact that where her business wasn't moving forward at anymore was related to a past life experience that she had with a prior business partner. Mm. So she had a court level situation with a business partner in the past life that kept her stuck from being able to move forward. She was doing all the things, trying everything. But that soul reading that I was able to provide allowed her to move through, become aware of that, bring that into her consciousness, and now at a conscious level, be able to work through the emotions and understand where these emotions, where these thoughts, where these negative feelings that were coming from. Now she understood the root of them, and we were able to work through them energetically. So that's the level to which I'm able to help. And it can feel overwhelming. And a lot of people that sit with me, when they start the conversation, they're very skeptical. They're like, oh, what is she really gonna? Yeah. And the one thing that I always get is how on point that was is scary.
and so in these times, as I'm sure you're aware, with everyone, not everyone, but most people wanting to build community, but at the same time working on their own personal journey, their self-improvement journey, it's easy to get lost or be led astray, depending on who you are following or who you're seeking support and advice from. What would you say to anyone out there that's listening and that's saying, you know what, I'm doing all the things in my business or in my personal life, and I'm just stuck somewhere outside of them coming to you and working with you, which is obvious. That's like the number one thing, right? But what little tips or value tips that you can provide to someone?
Shut out the noise. Shut out the noise. There are people like you and I, right? We're here to lead others. We're here as leaders. We're here as resources. We're here as guides. And we're here to guide people the right way. We're here to do it consciously. We're here to give them the tools. However, if you're coming to us from a place of not knowing whether this is what's going to help you, then we're not helping each other.
Yeah.
Because you need to sit with yourself and shut out the noise and stop thinking about the way that you're supposed to do everything and listen to the way that you are feeling and understanding that you should do things. Because the way that we're supposed to do things is, based on, the capitalism and all of the way that most of us have grown up and seen and have been taught that businesses are run and that businesses are successful. That's not working for everybody, and it's not working. And there are people that it's working for, but it's not working for all of us. So what's missing is you. You need to come into yourself and then come and find people like us to help you when you have identified that a conscious leader, that someone in the spiritual realm, that someone that works with faith is able to come in and help you, but not because that's what somebody else told you to do. It has to come from within.
100%, 100%. You're seeing how the market is going. You're seeing how, like, globally life is going. We just saw last week, stock markets just crashed. Not crashed, but like almost crashed, right? Everything just went down before the end of the day. People were panicking. And there are many people who have either small businesses or, mid or bigger businesses. We're seeing the fear that's happening. But then we're also seeing others that are saying, oh, come with me. I'll make you 10K. I'll help you get to 20K and 50K and all of these other things, right? Where do you see business, entrepreneurs, leaders right now? Where do you see them heading in the next 5 years beyond where we are right now and how we run our business and run our lives?
I think what's happening right now is an essential part of the success that small businesses are going to see in the next 5 to 10 years. I truly believe that in order for things to change, they have to be broken down completely, right? We have to be able to change and break down to the foundation to be able to rebuild a new foundation. And so what I see happening right now, everything that's happening in the outside world with the market, the financial positioning that I think all of us are in, is an essential part of the breakdown that needs to happen for us to rebuild this foundation in a way that works for everybody. Because working for the 1% is not working for all of us.
Yeah.
So I think that small businesses and I think that entrepreneurs, I think that if we can just pull through, and pull through looks a little bit different for everybody. Mm-hmm. I think for a lot of people, it doesn't mean necessarily, walking away from your business because now you have this financial situation based on the stock market or whatever is happening in your own personal life. Yeah. I don't think it means that we need to walk away. Maybe we need to walk away from right now because we need to pay our bills and we need to, pay the mortgage and put food on the table. Maybe, but I think that if we can hold on, I think that this is the breakdown that's going to rebuild the entrepreneurial world. I think it's going to bring us back to how it was meant to be before, which is where we each offer, our gifts and our services so specified that they're going to help the specific audience that is our audience, right?
Yes. Well, I am on track with you. I'm aligned with you with that whole thing. 100%. Regardless of what's going on, the world is still going to keep turning. I tell my little daughter this all the time. I go, look, did the world keep spinning? Yes. Okay. Are you alive and breathing? Yes. Okay. So it's a good day. Let's start there. It sounds really simple and simplistic, but really it's that simplicity, right? And then when we recognize, oh, okay, I'm still here. I still have gifts to give. I still have value. I still have purpose. I still have my family. I still have all of these things. Mm-hmm. Now, what am I going to do about it? And we got to shift that mindset and that mind perspective. And I can see why it's important when you're starting off working with an entrepreneur, specifically leaders or executives, anyone that comes with you that's saying something's a bit off. Why you actually start off with the quiet, the silent time, and the meditations and all the they have homework to do. I know people don't like that word, but it's called homework, and it still helps. right? And repetition.
Yes, I still call it that. When I send them the email, I'm like, this is your homework.
Yeah, because it really is, and it's being consistent every day, and you're helping them to be consistent every day. Because if they don't do the work, they're not going to get the results.
That's right.
It's just a fact. So I 100%, as I was saying, agree with where what you're saying, because people need help. People need support. People need guidance, and it's the ones who are awake and who actually have the training, the experience, and this is their purpose. They're the ones who are really going to be supporting these up and budding entrepreneurs, these teenagers, these young adults, even the older ones who are now getting into the second, third, fifth act of their life, and they're just like, this is my new purpose. This is where I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. And that's and I'm grateful I'm ready for it. And I think you're exceptionally grateful you're ready for it too. So there you go.
Yes, I'm very grateful. And it is people like us. We are here to make the change. And we took the plunge, we put ourselves out there. We mustered those skills that we had, and we did additional training, and we do the work every day, because I think that I love that you said that, because even with what I do, it's like I can read your soul. I can tell you what your soul purpose is. But if you don't do the work, we're not going anywhere. It's almost like I didn't say anything and you didn't find out exactly what it is. I love that. There's value in the work that we do. And we have prepared ourselves to be here to be able to bring the rest of the collective as they become, woke, and as they wake up to what's actually happening. But it does take both of us. It's going to take all of us in working together to be able to make those shifts and make a greater impact.
100%. I was going to ask you about my close to final question with this. What are your thoughts on being a conscious leader? And you essentially answered it. So I'm just going to leave that right there. But I wanted to share what offerings do you have for anyone that's looking for support?
Yeah, of course. So the main thing that I love for audiences to start with, I have a few offerings, but the main one is my chakra energy course, because we need to understand ourselves at a spiritual level. We need to understand how, people say a lot of, at least for me, there was a lot of talk about like spirituality and energy. And I'm like, what do those things have to do with each other?
Yeah.
And so my chakra course really delves into that. It helps us understand energetically the impact that it has on our spirit. And that's the main offering that I love for people to start with. My biggest, and what I shared with you earlier, I call it my baby, because I feel like this is my offering that has the greatest impact, is a one-on-one program where we do start with that soul reading. And it's a very in-depth soul reading that outlines any questions that you have, but also who you are at soul level, what your gifts are. And we delve back into any blockages that are keeping you from moving forward as an entrepreneur. That's really important, right? We can feel like we're spinning our wheels, but spinning our wheels is also costly for us, right? It's not just, mental and emotional and spiritual. It's also financially draining. And so we can get to the bottom of that. And then I work with you for the next 7 weeks. Sometimes we need a little bit more time, 7 to 14 weeks, I say. And I work with clients to help them work through all of the blockages that exist for them to be able to get to that place where they know what to do. My main objective is teaching people what to do when they get stuck again, so that they don't have to come find me again. Always here, happy to help, but I like giving people the tools. So those are my main offerings.
Yeah. And when they do come back, because we're always ever evolving, it's because they're like, okay, I've hit the pinnacle. What's that next step? So you're equipping them with the tools to maintain and to grow. And as they grow and they hit that pinnacle, it's like, okay, what's the next step? And then they can come to you and you work with them on a higher level of training, which makes absolute and complete sense. How may we get in contact with you?
So I am on Instagram and I am at the Louisa Anderson, TheLuisaAnderson. And
Yeah,
you can also find me on Facebook. Same name, Louisa Anderson.
perfect. Well, I'll definitely be. We follow each other on Facebook, but not on Instagram. So I'll be following you on Instagram as well. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to be here. More importantly, we met each other unofficially, officially, literally a few days ago. And it was just one of those things where we're like, okay, let's do this. We never even spoke prior to, just literally 15 minutes or 10 minutes before we started this interview, because it was just so aligned. I believe so. And I think you do too. That's why you said, yep, let's do this.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, it was one of those things that it wasn't an sometimes you question, it was one of those things, oh, this was sent for me. This is part of my journey. She's part of my path. And
Yeah.
I rode right along with it. So
Yeah.
I'm totally aligned with that too.
Awesome. No, but I thank you. I thank you for coming on here. I thank you for sharing your expertise. I thank you for providing the helpful tips with myself and the audience so that we could ever evolve. And I look forward to seeing how you're going to be an authority and a leading figure in the coming age. Well, we're already in the new age as it is, but in the coming years, I should say, and in the coming times, as we shift from conscious consumerism and business and marketing to that spiritual. And there are so many people who need it and will be scrambling and looking for that help and that support. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been lovely.
Awesome. So if you guys liked this episode, hit that like and subscribe button and join me next week for another episode on the Conscious Leader Podcast. Have an incredible day. Bye.